Hello, my name's Kerry and welcome back to the Unsolved podcast. As always, before we get going with this week's episode, I'm here to remind you that this is a true crime podcast and not suitable for all audiences. This podcast is aimed at adult audiences only and listener discretion is advised.
Hello, my name is Levi Davis and my life is in danger. This is a call to my friends from school, university, and my colleagues in rugby. This is a story about police corruption and government corruption, and also organised crime. I ask, no, I beg, that you share, but that you listen and try to understand what I am telling you.
Barcelona, late October 2022. A city known for its crowds, its coastline, its constant movement. It's the kind of place where you can disappear for a while, but not the kind of place where you're supposed to vanish completely. Levi Davis was 24 years old when he arrived here, a professional rugby player who had featured for Bath Rugby and a familiar face to many through his appearance on The X Factor. He was also a trailblazer, one of the first openly bisexual players in professional rugby union, navigating pressures both on and off the field. But in Barcelona, something changed. On the 29th of October, Levi was last seen leaving a pub in the city. In the hours that followed, there were reported sightings, fragments of a timeline, and then nothing. No confirmed contact, no clear explanation, just a growing sense that something wasn't right. On this week's episode of the Unsolved podcast, we're going to try and understand not just what happened, but what we actually know, what we don't, and why that distinction matters. As you heard at the beginning of this episode, that is the voice of Levi Davis, a talented rugby player at the top of his game playing for Bath, and having also played for England under-18s and under-19s. This clip comes from a video posted to his Instagram account 4 days before his disappearance, and has been the reason that what started off as seeming like a tragic accident on Barcelona's shoreline may not be an accident at all. But before we get to that video, let's talk about Levi. Levi was born on the 12th of March 1998 in Heartlands Hospital, Birmingham, England. He was 7 weeks premature, weighing in at a tiny 3 pounds and 15 ounces, and spent his first week of life on an incubator. He never knew his father, and whilst his mother loved and cared for him and his brothers dearly, she struggled to raise her boys. And when Levi was 7, they found themselves in the foster care system. Levi's brothers, Luke and Nathan, were older than him, being 14 and 15 years old, and were sent to systems for older children, meaning Levi was separated from all of his family. Levi spent time moving between foster families, and this made him angry. He opened up about his childhood on ITV's Loose Women, saying, "I found it hard to adapt, was prone to running away, and suffered from mood swings until around 12. I was tough because I thought I was going to go home and never did. I'd miss my mum. Once I was settled and got into a routine, then things started to fall into place. My life started to turn around and I became just like any other kid, which was hugely important to fit in at school and not feel angry anymore." And once settled in with his foster family, many opportunities were presented to him. He attended prestigious schools, including a boarding school. He was popular and had a lot of friends, and the school gave him life skills in preparation for adult life. However, it still came with struggles culturally, as the school was almost entirely white, with Levi being one of just 2 black children within the entire school. It was whilst attending these schools that his sporting abilities were noticed, in particular his speed and power, which made him the perfect fit for the game of rugby. And it was his newfound love of rugby that gave him focus in life and helped him to realise the anger he felt. For my listeners who aren't accustomed to the magical sport that is rugby, on first watch it can appear brutal. Similar in ways to American football, but with no helmets, no padding, and no forward passes. Rugby is continuous, with less stops and starts in the game, making it more of an endurance sport than the short, explosive moments you see in American football. As someone raised within a rugby household with my dad playing at a high level at times during my childhood, I can also tell you that rugby players almost always have amazing personalities. And the sport is one of a kind in the sense that all shapes and sizes can play. And it's safe to say that Levi was one of those big personalities in rugby. Through his rugby, he was able to gain a scholarship at Denstone College to study sports performance at Bath University, a place at this university costing around £35,000 per year. Following this, Levi became a professional rugby union player. In 2019, Levi competed on Celebrity X Factor with fellow professional rugby players Ben Foden, an England international player, and Scotland international player Tom Evans. The group did well, passing the first auditions and being put into Simon's category, and they made it to the live shows and the semi-finals. They sang songs such as No Diggity, Pony and Old Town Road, but famously did this rendition of Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, which included a rap performed by Levi.
Five-star!
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. A band of angels coming for me, coming for to carry me home. About time that we made it. I know it's getting frustrating. 4 years in the making, fight to the finish till we all celebrate. Everybody getting frustrated. Everybody jump on it, jump on it. Never, never, never have to give up. Everybody here is a winner, and if you get there before I do, coming for to carry me home. Tell all my friends that I'm coming there too, coming for to carry me home. Sweet Lord, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Sweet Lord, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Sweet Lord, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Sweet Lord, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
This song is famously associated to England rugby. I imagine, much to Tom Evans' dismay as a Scottish player. TriStar came 5th in the series, with reality star Megan McKenna winning it overall. TriStar songs, including their Swing Low versions, are all available on Spotify. But coming 5th didn't stop Levi, as he later released his own song under the name Leader, called With Me. But Levi wasn't just making his mark with his rugby and singing skills, Because in 2020, Levi became the first active playing rugby star to come out as bisexual. Whereas other rugby players may have came out following retirement, Levi broke the mould for men's rugby. He spoke to Hugo Monnier for BT Sports in September 2020.
Levi, it's great to see you.
And you, Hugo.
Thank you. Good to chat. What's the reaction been like?
It's been overwhelmingly positive, to be honest. I've had lots of messages on my phone and Instagram. Haven't got quite round to reading or replying to them all. 'Cause it genuinely is overwhelming. But it's been very, very positive.
Were you at all worried about what people might say?
At one point, I was, yeah. I always preach about, especially to my friends, about being unapologetically themselves. And
Yes.
I felt like I had to then reflect the positivity that I try and give to others.
Okay.
I think I should just give it to myself.
So why have you decided you wanted to come out of this now?
Throughout COVID, I've had a lot of time to reflect, and over the last 4 years, it's something that's been eating away at me slowly, and it's not been the only cause, but it's been a part of the cause of my depression and anxiety at certain parts, and my drinking at a certain period as well after the X Factor. I just thought it was important to share, one for myself, but two for others, and if anybody is struggling, I just wanted to be a shining light in that respect.
To the best of my knowledge, there aren't any actively professional rugby players, men that is, that are either have come out as bisexual or gay. You might now become a symbol for that. Is that something you thought about? Is that something that you'd be happy to take on?
I don't see myself as a symbol just because I am bisexual. I'd rather just do what I do and be happy doing what I do and lead that way.
Yep.
And just being me.
Yep.
I just want to do me. Do you know what I mean? Do you, boo-boo?
You heard Levi talk about his mental health in that clip, and it's important to stress that he was also an advocate for being open and honest about his mental health struggles in connection to being a professional rugby player. Something we have only just started to see more of, particularly from Joe Marler, a former England international player who recently got to the final of Celebrity Traitors. But Levi also led the way for this. Rugby is seen very much as a man's sport. The manliest of men play the game. They are seen as being physically and mentally strong. Sometimes we forget that they are humans too. At the point of this interview, Levi was at the top of his game for Bath, having recently scored his first try. He was physically at his strongest, yet keeping his sexuality secret is what was pulling his mental health down. Levi told his teammates via a text message that said, "Hi guys, I just want to tell you something that's been eating away at me for 4 years now. I want to be open and honest with you boys, as friends and teammates. I'm bisexual. It's something I have known since I was 18. None of you are on my radar, so it's okay." The worry that Levi may have had at telling a group of men that he was part of the LGBTQ+ community was soon dispersed when the team wrote back messages such as, "We really support you," and "You're really brave. This changes nothing." It was in 2022 that Levi's name started to circulate in the media again. This time, it wasn't to do with reality TV or rugby. It was because he went missing. It was October 2022. Levi had been in Ibiza working on his music when on the 29th, he hopped on a boat and headed to Barcelona. He was last heard from on the 30th of October when he sent a voice note via WhatsApp. This is the Unsolved podcast, which means some elements to all of our stories covered are unknown. But with Levi's, what happens after that WhatsApp message, we really don't. But according to some reports, there is somewhat of a timeline, which we will cover soon. However, at 6:32 a.m. on the 30th of October 2022, Maltese cruise ship called the MCS Bellissima was heading for Barcelona's commercial port. It was around a nautical mile away when a British crew member who was walking along deck 5 on the ship's port side saw something in the water. Around 30 foot away from him, he sees what he believes is a man in the water. He's got clothes on, but he can't see the colour of his skin. The man is shouting, "Help me, help me, help me," with a British accent. The crewmate shouts "man overboard," and by 6:33 a.m, Bellissima's bridge is being alerted over the internal systems. Within 30 seconds, the man overboard alarm sounds. With the cruise ship being the size and weight it is, it isn't possible for it to abort and move into a position to help the man in the water. So they call the Catalan Coast Guard, knowing that their response time will be quicker than anything the cruise ship may be able to do. At 6:34 a.m, Bellissima broadcasts a satellite position for the man in distress, with his location being close to a floating radio beacon called the Sierra Buoy. At 6:35 a.m, a life ring is thrown from the Bellissima's starboard. 3 more passengers report hearing the yells coming from the water. At 6:35 and 50 seconds a.m, a maritime rescue boat arrives at the scene, closely followed by another boat. Then 5 more from the police and civil guard. A helicopter scrambles above, which is tracking the southbound current. The search of the water goes on for almost 12 hours. A head count is carried out aboard the Bellissima, and once established that everyone is aboard, the search is aborted. There is no person found in the water, and they appear to have vanished within the space of 4 minutes. It is unknown whether there even was someone on the water, and if there was, whether this was Levi. There were no reports of a body washing up along the coastline. Divers had gone to investigate, albeit late, as this didn't happen until May 2023. Reports of Levi's disappearance at the time flooded UK news headlines. Social media was sharing the story. His family were begging for anyone in the area of Barcelona to keep a lookout for him. Headlines then started to emerge of the rugby star who had vanished. For listeners in the UK, you may remember this. And I'm just going to stop here for a minute because I remember following Levi's disappearance when it first happened, and I'm pretty sure that I'm not confusing my cases here, but as I recall, there was no mention of the Instagram post at the time of his disappearance, nor in the months that followed. And I seem to recall news articles in around 2023 confirming that he had drowned in the port. Even within my research for this case, and looking at the earlier news articles of his disappearance, very few mention the Instagram post. Also within my research, I can't seem to find the news articles that confirm that he did drown. So maybe it's a Mandela effect, or maybe I am confusing my cases. A few days ago, I was doom scrolling on Facebook when the page for the charity Missing People reposted Levi's awareness picture calling for anyone with information to come forward. Confused, I looked into Levi's case, wondering why they were reappealing when it was confirmed that he had drowned. And that's when I went down a rabbit hole and realised that he is still very much considered missing. There are articles around a £100,000 drug debt. Although the Instagram post was still not hugely reported on, the words that Levi says in them is talking of being drugged, raped and blackmailed. Let's get back to Levi. At the time of his disappearance, the Spanish police were looking into the case. We know that Levi sent a message via WhatsApp in the early hours of 30th of October 2022. But during the investigation, it was discovered that this wasn't the last reported use of his phone. Levi's phone pinged later that morning to a phone mast at the far end of the port closest to the sea entrance, likely linking the apparent sighting of a man in the water to being Levi. But here's where things get strange, because during an investigation on Levi's case by Dan Evans and Tom Latcham for Byline Times, they spoke to 2 maritime experts who both said that as a weak-to-average swimmer, there would have been no way for him to physically swim to the Sierra Buoy in the dark on his own. One of the experts says that given the darkness, it would be likely that Levi would lose his sense of direction. There would be high chance of him being run down by a ship. He says, and I quote, It is therefore very unlikely that this person arrived at this location in the ocean without the involvement of a third party. Another person they speak to says that at this particular time of year, the temperature of the water would see hypothermia setting in quickly. So it seems almost impossible to imagine that Levi would have managed to swim here without getting into some kind of trouble prior. The area in which the person calling for help was seen in a shipping lane, with high nautical traffic. The sea's natural tide would be disrupted by passing ships, and the undercurrent itself would also be hard to fight against to swim to this point. Even someone who is trained to swim in the sea would find this difficult. The investigation by Catalan investigators states that no criminal activity took place, yet the more that you look into Levi's case, the stronger the possibility that it was. Speaking of the Catalan investigation, it didn't amount to much. They took reports from the cruise ship witnesses and other than this did some sea and river searches which were conducted 7 or 9 months later. There were no reports of a body washing up or being caught in nets, which is what experts say is likely to have happened after a couple of days or weeks. According to the ship tracking provider marinetraffic.com, there were 12 vessels within close proximity to the Sierra buoy in the 6 hours between Levi's last mobile phone ping and the man overboard alarm on the cruise ship. Although these had been anonymised, it was reported that within this 12 there were 3 container or cargo ships, 1 oil tanker, 1 ferry, and 2 cruise ships. There was also 3 pilot boats. Pilot boats are there to help guide the bigger ships in and out of the harbour. One of these pilot boats was known to have been in the spot where the man was spotted shortly before the man overboard call from the Bellissima. It was also the first one on the scene, having turned back with the other 2 ships coming to the spot to join the search. Although when asked by the reporters in the Byline Times, the court refused to comment on whether any other alert had been made. It is maritime law to call in if a boat sees anything strange to authorities. However, an insider informed the investigators that the only alert made came from the Bellissima. The feeling from the Catalan inquiry is that because they couldn't find a body in the waters, no crime had been committed. However, Julie Davis, Levi's birth mother, feels that this is wrong, and in fact, it is the opposite. She has 3 theories on how Levi got to be at the Sierra buoy. The first is that he was on a boat and there was some type of accident where he fell in, and it wasn't reported. The second being that he was kidnapped and had escaped from the vessel by jumping into the water. And the third being someone trying to murder him by throwing him off the boat and leaving him there. But the Catalan inquiry did manage to develop a timeline for Levi, and with others being able to piece it together, we do know what some of his movements were as he left Ibiza. Levi had been in Ibiza working on his second single promotion. He had met an old friend of his, Richard Squire, who is known as a global brand and marketing consultant. Whilst in Ibiza, Levi had photo shoots taken as part of the promotion and had been uploading content to his recently activated OnlyFans account. Richard had stated that Levi seemed to be back to his best. He was getting up early to take part in circuit training, having recently been off of rugby with a knee injury. On the 28th of October 2022, Levi posted the last content to his OnlyFans, with the comment saying, "My first nudes, #TakeItBack." The OnlyFans account seemed to have taken off, as it had also been reported that Levi was getting financial offers from it, with people wanting to buy his underwear and swimming trunks. Remember this hashtag. It may become poignant later on. Squire last saw Levi on the 28th when he dropped him to Old Town in Ibiza, where Levi had arranged to meet a grinder date. All he had with him was €40 and a small bag in case he stayed out for the night. On the 29th of October 2022, from the port of Old Town Ibiza, Levi got the high-speed ferry to Barcelona. He paid £35 for the 7.5-hour ferry trip. Whilst on the ferry, he made a video that he sent to his mum, scanning out to the seascape when the sun was setting and saying, You can't tell me that's not beautiful. He then sent a WhatsApp message to Squire saying, I just wanted to tell you I am on my way to start my business journey in Europe and reconnect with the Lord and find myself. This message was sent at 7:13 p.m. When interviewed by Catalina, Squire says that Levi was planning on meeting someone from Grindr in Barcelona and that he'd been offered an £800 fee to have sex with them. Who this person was that Levi was planning to meet has never been found out. At 7:43 p.m, Levi's phone then connected to an orange antenna in the city port as he disembarked the ferry at Barcelona. It then seems he took a 20-minute walk from the city port to La Rambla. La Rambla is known for its tree-lined pedestrian streets, filled with quirky shops, cafes and bars. At 9:13 p.m, CCTV captures Levi at the Old Irish pub. He seems to have watched the Liverpool vs Leeds football match and brought a beer. At 9:30 p.m, he sends another video to his mum of the busy bar. At 9:44 p.m, Levi messages his friend Mike Guider with another video showing a karaoke competition. The message says, "Fucking decent out. Will bail you when I'm somewhere to sleep, bro. Have a good night, my G." Mike responds with, "Asked to go up and sing, haha." Levi leaves the Old Irish pub at 9:46 p.m. His phone then connects to Instagram on a Spanish IP address at 9:50, and at 10:08 he is caught on internal CCTV near the Hard Rock Cafe. At 10:22 p.m, Levi leaves a voicemail for Mike. He sounds breezy and carefree. At 10:26 p.m, he buys another drink. At 10:46 p.m, he messages his mum again, asking for £30. At 11:04 p.m, Levi checks his WhatsApp again and sends his final message to Mike that says, "All this is beautiful. It's fucking incredible. I'm taking all my inspo. Fuck, I love it." At 12 minutes past midnight, Levi's phone pings from the previously mentioned tower at the end of the port, meaning he must have gone back to the port from when he disembarked the ferry. But he wasn't seen on the CCTV he had previously been seen on, meaning he either didn't retrace his steps or he didn't walk there. His phone and bag have never been found, but oddly, his passport was, 3 weeks later, at the port. We've been working backwards on Levi's case, and the theme is going to continue. At the beginning of this podcast, you heard Levi's voice from the 15-minute Instagram video he had posted in the days leading up to his disappearance. I'm not going to play the whole video, as it is quite long, but there are some key pieces I'd like you to hear.
This all began in London. After the X Factor, I had many new friends and many old. It started when I was speaking with a friend, what I would now call an acquaintance. It is important for you to know that I'm an impersonable guy. I believe I am humble, and I will speak to anybody. I didn't used to have a guard up, but for reasons why I'm about to tell you, I have not been myself for a very long time. 3 years ago, I came off the Celebrity X Factor, and I met many new people, and one of which, an individual who I will not name, we began a relationship which formed, a friendship which was formed through music. Many times we had met, but on the last occasion, I was drugged and I was blackmailed. After this, I appealed to my club for help, I appealed to my agent for advice. I do not blame this on anybody, as we are all an aggregate of our own decisions. However, the response I got was one which my agent advised it would be best to resign, as he believed the club were going to fire me. After I asked them for help, after I believed I was being filmed, doing sexual acts after I was drugged, which many would call rape. And by law, we would call rape. After this, and the lack of support, I was not myself. I went to the police and I asked them if they could help me. I did not understand the full picture at that time. All I knew is something was happening to me, and it was not something good. On many occasions, I went to my family and my friends, who also did not understand what was going on. They pleaded with me to find evidence, which I went on a mission to try and find. What I wish you to understand is, with organised crime, it is not one person. It's an aggregate of people. People that you do not know. People that get into your lives through whatever means possible. And after I believe what I believe to be, have been filmed on the dark web, and videos of me in compromising positions, and the blackmail that followed me. After I went back to one of these people to conform to their demands, I was told by them in ways in which are not direct, but are absolutely true, that they were going to attempt, if I said anything else, they were going to attempt to kill me, threaten my family, and they also were trying to frame me, and are. This was followed by many attempts of gaslighting, threats, and I've had enough. So I'm here to appeal to you to share this. The information that I gave to the police went directly back to these individuals. And I understand that the police are good people. It's full of good people trying to do their job. But there is also a fact that there is a large amount of police corruption. And the only way that these people would have had access to my private interviews with the police is through it being leaked. I was gaslit into thinking that I had psychosis, when many of the things I said are actually true. I believe this because I was looking for an understanding in which a puzzle I could not put together. My family, my friends, I thank you for being there, even when you didn't understand what was wrong with me. But I am now not safe. By doing this, I am not safe. I try not to put individuals' names in this, and I try not to be as vague as possible through fear of retaliation. However, I understand that I am not the only one this is happening to. This is me taking my power back. I understand that they have videos of me, hence why my OnlyFans makes sense to me. Many years ago, I would not have done this, but I am sofa surfing. I do believe that this is a lot bigger problem than just me. Hence why I risk my life to do this. I was riddled with confusion, which is their intention. A metaphor for this would be being in a corner in the fetal position. That's what I was, scared. But as a man of God, He did not give me a spirit of fear. He gave me a spirit of hope. And that is why I am posting this today. I hope that as my friends, you can share this and ignite it for what it is. But they did say that they have links to a government minister. Think about that for a second. They've infiltrated my family. Members of my family, they've threatened my little sisters and brothers. And so I can't stand back here, and I won't. I just thank all the people that have come to me in my times of need, because without you, I might not still be here. I remember vividly standing on the side of a bridge and my friend helping me off it. That's where this brought me to. The dark place that this brought me to.
Levi was an avid Instagram user with 19k followers. When he posted this video 4 days before he disappeared, he took it down shortly afterwards, but had then sent it to some friends for what he called safekeeping. I will post a link to the full video in the show notes. At times, it's difficult to understand what Levi is trying to say. Whether he is doing this to try and keep himself from saying something he feels may worsen the situation, we don't know. But the talk of blackmailing is something he spoke about to his mother and to some of his friends prior to the video. In the weeks leading up to his trip to Ibiza, Levi had been staying on and off with his friend Mike in Berkshire, England, where he had confided in him about being blackmailed, and Mike had noticed Levi becoming more paranoid. He recalled one evening they had frequented a local pub. Levi had been convinced that 2 other punters were police officers coming to get him, despite Mike and other friends assuring him they weren't. And although Levi eventually laughed it off, saying he was joking, Mike felt something wasn't right. Levi had confided in Mike, a conversation he recalls as Levi telling him he was being blackmailed by a person who worked for a major TV network. He was adamant he couldn't say who it was, but he had told Mike a first name. He also referenced a laptop that he took everywhere with him, telling Mike he had stuff on his laptop that he couldn't show him for his own safety. Levi then lost his laptop around this time. The laptop he never left out of his sight, and this had caused him a great deal of distress, with him saying that he could have been hacked, and odd things happening with his bank account and social media accounts following it going missing. At times in the video, it can also seem like Levi is talking of something he is imagining, maybe a sense that his mental well-being is deteriorating, and he had been diagnosed with drug-related paranoia from an increased use of smoking cannabis. Oddly, with his disappearance, some strange occurrences had happened on his Instagram account, as up to 38 contacts have been deleted from Levi's account. A private detective claimed these could have been deleted to mislead or obstruct any investigation, And although Levi's music label did have some access to his Instagram account, it was later determined that they did not have permission to remove contacts. Levi was often told by a former advisor that he could be naive with regards to his social media usage, responding to random people and not always protecting himself enough. And so, in a twist of fate with this, he chose this platform to share the video, a video in which he claims to be blackmailed, that he was drugged and forced into sexual activity, what he now claims to be considered rape. And this is where the hashtag from his final OnlyFans account seems poignant, because was this Levi trying to take back control of his own body, of what people saw, and could this have helped to calm down the blackmail he was facing? But with this, we can't deny that what he says in the video could have some substance. In the full version, Levi talks about trying to get away from it by moving to Australia, but that they followed him. He also says that it started happening after the X Factor. This gives the claim legs over him potentially imagining it. As he says, it had been happening for over 3 years. Then there's the claim of having no money. He had texted his mum to ask for £30. He had only taken €40 to Old Town Ibiza. Professional rugby certainly isn't as high earning as other sports such as football, but with his music, with his sports, and his OnlyFans, how was Levi so hard up, and as he says, resorting to have to sofa surf? An odd occurrence did happen in March 2023. Levi's brother Nathan had a WhatsApp notification pop up to say that the security code with Levi had changed. He recalls the last time he had a notification like this was the day before Levi headed to Barcelona. According to WhatsApp, this occurs when you or your contact reinstalls WhatsApp, changes of a phone, or added or removed a paired device. Nathan hadn't changed anything with his phone, so assumed it must have come from Levi's side. He sent a message straight away that just said, "Bro," but there was no reply. I'm unable to confirm if that message delivered. Not long after Levi's disappearance, the family instructed Gavin Burrows, a private investigator, to look into the case. In February 2023, he released to the press that the blackmail Levi talks of in the video could well be true. He had spoken to other contestants within reality TV who seemed to be in the same situation. He released a tweet that said, "Following Levi Davis case being brought to light, we have received valuable alleged information from a number of former participants and other fellow contestants over a number of years in the X Factor programme, who have confirmed the claims made in Davis's video seem true." He goes on to say a lot more within the comments of the tweet, but one part of it says, "The information we've received is that the trend seems to be that they take them to parties and are nice to them and get them into drugs, and when they do drug them up, they film them in compromising sexual acts. That seems to be the common territory here, one that Levi talked about in his video, and something that people who have contacted us have lent credence to." Gavin Burrows was later fired from the investigation by Levi's family. This case is one that, as I looked deeper and deeper, I found more and more reasons to suspect that something sinister could have played a part. For those who watch Celebrity X Factor, you'll likely remember Levi's cheeky and fun personality. Despite having faced trouble in his life, even from a young age, he always appeared to be so positive. His family are desperate to learn what happened to him. In their eyes, there just doesn't seem to be a way that he would have managed to swim out to the Sierra Buoy, and that someone else had been involved. In 2024, Catalina Police said that they would not be publishing a re-appeal for information, as no new lines of inquiry were opening up. But surely an appeal for further information is to gain those lines of inquiry? The general consensus is that not enough was looked into by the Spanish police, and that information at the time may have missed what could have led to more answers being known. Levi's mother, Julie Davis, is continuing to fight for answers. In the investigation in Byline Times, she said, "We have felt abandoned by the police, and I believe Levi was a victim of a crime in the UK and in Spain. They pulled out the stops to find Jay Slater. They need to do the same for Levi." And the investigation by Byline could prove that Spanish police did not do enough. A sighting of Levi was reported in the city of Barcelona 6 days after his disappearance. They had checked his social media footprint with regards to WhatsApp, Instagram and OnlyFans, but hadn't considered other apps Levi was known to use, such as Grindr. There was failure to recover footage from multiple CCTVs that cover Barcelona, meaning there is 6 hours unknown about his movements. And this leads us up to today, where appeals from the Missing People's Charity are still calling anyone with information to come forward. After all, we don't know for sure that it was Levi in the water. I hope one day this case will be reinvestigated thoroughly, leaving no stone unturned, in hopes we can find Levi, or at least find out what happened to him. Thank you as always for listening. The last couple of episodes I have recorded to video in anticipation for being able to upload them to Spotify through my distribution platform in the future. However, the hard work of making videos feels pointless when no one can see them yet, so I'm going to be posting them up on YouTube. Do go and give my socials a follow, as once this is done I will share the link then. The YouTube videos will be posted up on a Wednesday, following the release coming to you on a Monday. If you know of any unsolved cases that you feel needs a voice, please remember that you can email the stories to me at sslpod.kd@gmail.com, or you can direct message me on Instagram or TikTok. Thank you again for listening. Until next week, goodbye.